In this video, I'm going to show you how to use adjustment layers in your work. The first thing we need to do is start with a picture. So I have this one and I've unlocked it, so it's layer 0. Now I'm going to find the adjustment layer icon. It's right here and it looks like a black and white cookie. You can also find the adjustments by going to Window and Adjustments and then having the Adjustments panel, which will give you different icons for each one. These icons can be pretty telling as to what the adjustment will do. These will also give you the options. But I find that it's easier and it keeps your space cleaner if you just use the icon right here. So what I just did was I clicked this and then we get these options. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll go through the ones that I think are the most fun to use and the most commonly used, and then you can experiment with any of them on your own. So one thing that's pretty interesting is that these are broken up into different categories. The first category, let's say solid color, you would put this color on top of the picture. We can just hit OK, and now we have this picture. And if we want, we can modify this at any time. I think something that's interesting here, and we'll get to blending modes a little bit later, but you can change the blending mode of this solid layer to tint the picture here. I'm going to delete this. So that's solid color right there. In this category, you can change the darkness and lightness of your picture. I'm going to show it to you with brightness and contrast. If you up the brightness, let's say you were indoors and the lighting wasn't good, you can up the brightness. You might want to be cautious not to get too bright or your picture will blow out. If you go all the way to 100, it looks way too light. Over here, it gets very dark. I think that's good because this is a pretty dark corner. And contrast, if it's high contrast, the lights get lighter and the darks get darker. And if it's low contrast, then everything is more medium toned. I think that keeping this at 0 is fine. So that's brightness and contrast. You can also change the lightness with something like levels. And notice that when I have these open, the adjustments, we're actually making them in the properties panel. If you X out of the properties panel and you lose it and you want to get it back, you can just double click on the adjustment and it brings the property panel up. So if you were to bring the slider in, you'd make all of your darks darker. If you bring this slider over, you'd make your whites whiter. This changes the midtones. I wouldn't worry too much about that one, but it is interesting. Next, we have this category which changes the colors of things. I think the most useful one that I find is the hue saturation. And this really talks about the fundamental aspects of color. We start with hue. And if you have the hue saturation, if you have the hue slider here, we see that it goes the entire span of the color wheel, and we start at 0. So all of these colors are assigned a certain number, and if you make the slider move over, it changes all of the colors accordingly. So it's kind of like, imagine you're rotating a wheel and it's impacting the way the picture looks. The whites and the blacks stay the same because they don't have a hue really. They change a little bit, but not noticeably. So that's the hue slider. Saturation is pretty indicative of the bar itself. If you bump the saturation up, the colors get brighter. And if you take it all the way down, you lose all of the colors. And this is a good way to make your pictures black and white. Let's bring it back to 0. Lightness and darkness, this is the value scale. If you make it all the way light, you get a white picture. If you make it all the way dark, you get a black picture. Somewhere in the middle could be helpful. I'm going to just keep it at 0 for now. Maybe bump it up a little bit. And now if I decide I don't want it, I can always just take the eyeball off and take it, and that will change it. What we're doing here is we're layering these adjustments on top of each other, which is pretty cool. Next, the next thing that can be interesting or useful is color balance. You might notice that these are the opposites on the additive color wheel. So we have cyan against red, magenta against green, yellow against blue. This helps you balance the colors. And this will also, if you took a picture in a room that had a yellow light bulb, then it might end up being too yellow. And then if you wanted to make your whites actually white, then you can up the blue content in your picture. It really just is a matter of preference, I suppose. It depends what you're trying to do. But you can impact how the colors are looking based on the color balance. I'm going to turn that one off. We also have black and white, which I think can be kind of fun to use. What you do here is, so it takes the picture and makes it grayscale. And then you can make parts of the picture darker or lighter. Anything that was originally red is now going to be I'm making darker by doing this, and you can really tell with the paintings on top. You can do that with the yellows too, or make the yellows lighter. What I really like about this is you can hit tint, and it tints the picture according to whatever color is in this box. If you want to change the color of the box, you just click it, and now I'm tinting the whole picture blue, or I'm tinting the whole picture green. And I think that's a really cool effect. Another one that I want to talk about is channel mixer. This one, it will change, you're just using the sliders to see what happens. You're, changing them. And I think that having the black and white filter on top already makes it look kind of funny. But you're just trying to, what it does is change the way the colors are looking. Okay, and you can tell that because of the icon. It's like a Venn diagram of all the colors, the red, green, and blue. And I guess the inside is the black. Another one that I want to talk about is, this one's pretty cool right here, invert. This will take your whole document and just invert all the colors. So now the black bookshelf is white. These walls, I guess, obviously weren't totally white, as we can see here, because now they look gray. But here was whiter, so it's blacker. And now we can see what the color opposites were of the original picture. That's something that could be worth exploring. Another one that I want to talk about is gradient map. If you have gradient map open, what it's going to do is it changes it. You have the lights that are one color that are appearing white and the darks that are appearing black. But what you can do here is reassign those colors. You can make the lights come out yellow, and we can do that by selecting this one. This one over here represents the light colors. This one on the left represents the dark colors, and we can change it. You can tell that it's selected because now it has a black arrow. And I'm going to make all of my lights appear yellow, and I'm going to make all of my darks appear purple. I think that's a fun thing to try because they're color opposites. And now, if you wanted to, instead of using the swatches, you can select or hit this rectangle and change the color. And now what I'm doing is contrasting a pale yellow with a darker purple. Another thing you can do here is introduce a third color to represent the midtones. In an actual, in a regular gradient or, midtones thing, it would be, these are your midtones, but we can actually assign a third color to be the midtones. This is how I achieved the effect in my series of books. So what I'm doing is holding down either Option or Alt to drag out another square. And you'll see that it went backwards, but you can just select it. And now what you could do, it changes that. But let's just choose a color. And I'm going to choose this blue, or maybe this blue right here. And I can move this to make it more purple. I can do this to make it more yellow, or this to make it more yellow. And then you can just mess around there. I think maybe now that we've introduced blue, I can get a brighter purple, but maybe not. And so that's how you can use a gradient map to assign your lights to be one color and your darks to be another color and your midtone to be a third color. I wouldn't get too more advanced on that, but you can introduce as many colors as you want. And it will mathematically change it for you. Okay, so those are a few of the, or really most of the and I'm going to just hit OK. That's most of the adjustment layers. You can see how you can make those adjustments in the property panel. In the next video, I'm going to show you how you can apply adjustment layers to just one aspect of the photo.